are live streaming here from Rockwell's Automation Fair out of the Digital Workforce booth, and just a plethora of people. This booth is so busy, filled with students, employers, people interested in how we upskill and train the next generation to be prepared to work with all of the incredible technologies we're seeing across this entire expo floor. I mean, just emerging technologies in every space you can imagine. And so we've got an ecosystem of partners who are thinking about how we train and upskill that next generation. This is the Tech Ed Podcast. My name is Melissa Martin. I am your guest host, and today we have on a guest who is helping to create the standards and certifications for that next-gen workforce, for the incumbent workforce, so that we have a standard set of competencies and skills to help prepare that next generation of smart manufacturing workers. On live with me is Jim Wall. He is the Executive Director of the Smart Automation Certification Alliance, also known as SACA. Jim, thanks for being on the podcast.
It's great to be with you today, Melissa.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're actually an alum of the podcast, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But for those who aren't familiar with SACA, tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
So SACA, the Smart Automation Certification Alliance, is really a relatively young organization. We were actually incorporated back in 2017 as a nonprofit educational foundation, and our mission is to work with industry experts to develop detailed skill standards, which are then validated with hundreds of technical experts across the country and internationally to help companies develop pathways for their workers, but also to be used by the educational community to be able to align their programs with the skills and competencies that industry needs now and into the future, all related around the Industry 4.0 related technologies. And so that's our primary mission, is to develop those skill standards, but those standards are then used as the basis for developing a certification program, so that we have a third-party, independent, industry-validated certification program, so that people can feel confident that they have the skills and they have demonstrated that they are competent in using those skills in real life situations. And it's really been interesting to see how many companies have gotten involved in helping to develop the standards, but also many of them tell us they've gotten involved kind of selfishly, because their companies have been kind of floundering. When you look at the whole breadth of what could be considered part of the Industry 4.0 revolution that's happening, it's mind-boggling, and like, where do they begin? How do they start? And some of them have used the analogy of like trying to eat a whale. Where do you begin? But when we're able to sit down with them and look at specific occupations and the skills that are required within those occupations, they start saying, oh, okay, so I can start here. And over time, build upon the short-term training and certification opportunities to create those pathways within their companies and also within their communities, so that they can, more quickly upgrade their existing workforce, and also, work with the educational providers in their communities to get more people, in the pipeline. To be successful in the industry. And the whole goal is that, the hope that these standards and certifications will really help U.S. companies become more competitive and be able to embrace and invest in these new technologies, so that they have the competitiveness. And we're seeing that, all over the country, where, companies are using automation to bring work back, bring manufacturing back onshore. And one of the only reasons they can do it is because of they're able to use automation and these technologies. So, we think it's really critical to the future of our manufacturing base, for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, manufacturing is coming back to the U.S. That has been the headline for a while now, but especially in the last few months, the last year, as the supply chain issues have caused people to rethink how they create some of these long-term solutions. And SACA and standard sets of certifications is doing a lot of good work in creating that as we think about bringing manufacturing to the U.S., as we invest in a larger manufacturing workforce, like you said, now and for the future, what do those skills look like? And if we can create a standard set of competencies, then we can easily, kind of across the board, no matter what state you live in, no matter what college you go to, no matter who you work for, you will have the skills and competencies needed. So much packed into your answer,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to unpacking some of that through our conversation. Some
Sure.
of the words that stood out to me were, industry relevant. The partnerships that you're creating with the industrial employers. My goodness, my notes are just going everywhere. Everybody knows this is me being a guest host and learning along the way. But the industry relevance is really important. You said independent, third party, and we'll uncover kind of like what exactly that means in the world of certifications, because I think that's really, really important.
Right.
That sets you apart. And then the whole concept of being modular and kind of some of the different ways that you've structured those credentials, and then the occupational side of things. So we're going to unpack a bunch of that as the conversation goes on. But Jim, before we do, you said Saka's fairly young, but
Exactly.
the momentum that you have had in the last few years is incredible. So can you give our audience kind of an idea of, who are your member institutions? Where are they coming from? How many are they? Give us an idea of the breadth and scope of Saka.
So we've got really two classes of membership.
Okay.
We've got educational members, and we also have industry members.
Right.
So, on the education side, we've got high school programs, technical community college programs, and university programs that are all able to benefit by using the SACA standards and certifications. So right now we have a total of just under 200 member organizations, and that number is growing every week. We're adding new members and new companies getting involved. Currently there's about 7,500 individuals.
Wow.
who are in the system, and I think most important is within the next few weeks we're going to issue our 10,000th credential to
Wow.
candidates across the country, and also we do some international work, but by and large most of it is in the United States.
Right.
So we're seeing our membership growth increase at an increasing rate.
Yeah,
which
the
is nice. So
exponential
yeah,
growth.
it's growing month by month, and we're really excited about it. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about our newest industry
Yes.
member.
Yeah, very
but
exciting
we
stuff.
are seeing companies actually recognizing that maybe for years they really weren't heavily engaged in education and training for their existing workforce.
Yeah.
But now more and more of them are recognizing that it is important, and they're just not going to be able to go buy the talent. They're going to have to upgrade the skills of their existing workers, and I think part of what's also driving our growth in industry membership is the great resignation
Yes.
kinds of things that have been happening
Yes.
over the last couple of years, and the companies that are on the ball are recognizing, especially for their younger workforce,
Yep.
people want to see a clear path forward.
Absolutely.
What do they have to do to advance in their careers?
Yes.
And if they don't see a future that is, not years away, but months away.
Months away. Yeah.
They are quick to walk and go somewhere else. So companies that are proactive are really trying to engage their employees and their managers to begin to really work on developing those concrete pathways within their organizations to keep the talent that they have, but also as a great recruiting tool, as well as a retention tool for companies, which is really critical.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Recruiting and retention, that's a great way of putting it. And once again, a lot packed into that answer. I'll just say anecdotally, going back to the beginning, if you, I subscribe to the to Saka's monthly updates, and it's incredible to see not only every month all of the new member institutions that you've added, but also the returning member institutions. So like you said, you're young, but you've already got all of these institutions who are renewing their memberships. It really proves out the fact that their investment in Saka, which which is not a big investment to begin with anyways, and we'll talk about some of that, but it's working and it's benefiting their students, and that 10,000, getting close to that 10,000 certification mark. First of all, congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about our business model and what the membership means.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, we operate on a membership basis. So SACA member organizations pay an annual membership fee, and then they can offer an unlimited number of certifications to their employees or their students that they train. And from our inception, we recognized, and certainly my board of directors as a nonprofit organization recognized that if we could take the financial transaction away from the individual candidate, especially in a school-based program, if they don't have to go home and find money to take a test to get the certification, more people are probably going to more quickly go through the certification process. So we operate on that membership basis that, on the educational side, it starts at $500 for a high school program. If there's more than one school district in the district, it's $1,000 for the district.
Okay.
And then for a college program, it's $2,500 a year. And on the industry side, it starts out at $500 for a company of 100 or less employees, and there's a scaling rate that maxes out at $3,500 for a company of 500 or more employees. And that's a little different than almost any other certification organization. So, the per certification cost for a school-based program, whether it's a college program or a high school program, really is negligible in their entire budget. So we're really proud of that from the very beginning, our industry partners recognized that we didn't want to be in a position of making money and supporting the organization off the backs of students, if you will.
Right, yeah. If anyone had any question on whether this is a mission-driven organization doing something that's for the benefit of all, I mean, that your model really shows that. And one example of how we see that play out to the benefit of schools is you've got something like the program, like the Act 59 program in Wisconsin, where Act 59 is in Wisconsin. It's where school districts can get up to $1,000 per student for earning industry-recognized certifications that are added to their state's approved certification list. And I think the last few years that they've done it, because it's a pot of money that then they give out. So again, it's up to $1,000, but I think it was like $700. So you think about that, like $700 the school gets back per student, and you're paying $500 for your annual membership.
Right.
So I mean, for the benefit of all, like truly.
And that really just helps build that capacity within the community to have strong programs. So we're really proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned this at the beginning that you're a podcast alum. So you actually joined us, get this, for our first ever episode of the podcast. And that was all the way back in January of 2021, and we probably recorded it in December of 2020. So I mean, it's been a while, and you were on with us as a co-guest along with, at the time, Assistant Secretary of Veterans Training, John Lowry. So we were talking all about veterans training programs. So really glad to have you back on, and you're joined by a couple of other really incredible people who are now in our two-timer group. So Mike Chico joined us at IMTS last month, and that was his second time on. And then this afternoon, Paul Perkins, who we know well, will be on, and it will be his second time on the podcast. So glad to have you back. But we talked a little bit about the value of bringing in those industrial employers to develop and validate the certifications that you're then putting out, which I think is, again, we talked about how unique the model is, the financial model of SACA, but the other unique part of SACA is how involved your employers are in actually determining the competencies you set. It's not just some things that, you just decide these are the competencies. So tell us about how that part of the model works as far as bringing in the industrial employers, and then who are some of the names that our viewers would recognize.
Yeah, so really everything that we do begins with our employer partners who make available their technical experts on a voluntary basis to work on what we call those technical work groups that really define the competencies and also are involved in the validation of it around the country and internationally. So, we've had quite a few, and the number keeps growing because we're continually developing new credentials and micro credentials. So, I can go down the list. We can start with Ashley Furniture, the world's largest furniture manufacturer. It's headquartered in very rural western Wisconsin.
Very rural.
The Ahrens Corporation, Fanuc Robotics, aerospace, Boeing has been involved in the electronics manufacturing arena. It was Foxconn, the world's largest contract electronics manufacturer. We've had Hershey Foods.
Who doesn't know Hershey?
The food processing industry sector. Kohler Company. And Sargento in the cheese processing area. Schlumberger in the oil and gas industry sectors. And our true friends also, Rockwell Automation.
Of course.
Have come on board as a platinum sponsor of the certification. So, we're really appreciative of all the industry input that we have had and continue to get. That it really just proves to me that there's a huge need in industry, and every company's lean, everyone's busy, but they make time to make their people available because they see this as being very critical to their future, as well as to help other companies succeed.
Right, absolutely. And let's talk a little bit more about that partnership with Rockwell, because we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. We're sitting in here. We're here because of Rockwell. Great partners of both the Tech Ed Podcast and SACA. So you mentioned that they're a platinum member. What does that mean, and what has that partnership what does that look like?
Well, Rockwell, has been involved from the very beginning. They made a number of their technical experts available for multiple technical work group meetings. And after about 2 years of their involvement and having their people serve on those technical work groups, they recognized that an awful lot of their customers were also part of those technical work groups, and they were really impressed that the amount of industry input, because all the decisions are made by those industry experts. At SACO, we just kind of consolidate and publish what the industry experts put together.
Right.
And they recognized that this was an organization that they really wanted to get behind and really make an investment to help us grow. So they came on board as a platinum member, and obviously that means they've made a financial commitment to the organization. But more importantly, they've made a commitment to use their influence in the industry with their supply chain and their customers to make them aware of these new standards and certifications, and the reach that they have on the industry sector is just incredible.
It's incredible.
and they're in it for the long haul. They recognize that companies like Rockwell and many of their other partners really need to work to create pathways within communities so that people can effectively use these new technologies, and that's going to spurn companies to make increased investments, even small to mid-sized companies, if they have people that are trained and skilled and can use the technologies, can install and maintain these systems. It's much easier for a company to make that investment.
You think about the breadth and scope of Rockwell's reach. I don't think people realize how big Rockwell's partner ecosystem is. You come to an automation fair like this and you see all of the different industries they're in, all of the influence has. They've made a tremendous amount of acquisitions in the last few years, buying other companies and different emerging technologies. If there's one company who is on the forefront, the leading edge, knows what's coming in the automated workforce, it's Rockwell. And so to have them as a platinum sponsor and to have their technical experts participate in these discussions, and then to influence their supply chain, their educational partners to be involved with SACA, that adds tremendous value to the work that you're doing.
Yeah, we really appreciate their involvement. It's really gratifying to see a company that's as large as As Rockwell, it's one of the worldwide leaders in automation technology, that they recognize that there's a real need, and they really have been extremely supportive of the alliance.
Yeah, and speaking of world leaders, you guys have had some exciting news in the recent weeks and months about some new members of SACA on the industrial employer side. So I won't give anything away. I'll let you make the announcement. So
Yeah.
tell us about some of the new partner members you've got.
So one of our newest industry members is Amazon Incorporated.
It's incredible.
Amazon really is beginning to use our certifications two different ways.
Okay.
Their HR function has partnered with a different nonprofit organization that has made community and technical college courses available across the country online. And they're incorporating training around our associate level certifications, their basic operations. And the goal is that they're making this training available to their frontline workforce,
Wonderful.
the order pickers.
Yeah.
So that these people many times don't see a pathway to a higher level position.
Right.
But if they get some skills around advanced manufacturing and some of these Industry 4.0 fundamentals, the hope is that they'll be better candidates for success in their apprenticeship programs for their automation technicians, robotics technicians, and maintenance technicians. Excuse me. I'll have to cut that out.
You're fine, no worries.
I think solid something. Amazon is also using our certifications as part of their apprenticeship programs for their maintenance technicians. They've embedded a number of the SACA micro-credentials as part of their progression through the apprenticeship to develop more of a competency-based apprenticeship model that they're offering at many locations across the country.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, we're really excited about them that are really coming on board and be able to use the certifications, in a meaningful way.
Right. Yeah, in a meaningful way. I mean, I know you hear a lot about Amazon and the way that they're doing these internal apprenticeships again, because especially that different generations of employees are looking for, like you said, that opportunity to move within the company. I'm recalling when we had Blake Moret, who, as folks know, is the CEO of Rockwell Automation on the podcast. He said that people are looking not just for a career ladder to climb, but a career lattice, so that if they want, they can move laterally, they can move upward. There's so many opportunities in the breadth of the organization to move within. And of course, everyone we've had on the last 2 days who's from Rockwell, it's like you talk to anybody from Rockwell and it's like, I've been there for 25 years, I've been there for 30 years. I mean, just the fact that these employees stay on for so long is a testament to the way that they've structured that culture. But I want to talk a little bit more about how SACA structures its certifications to align to some of those different occupations, and kind of how the micro-credentials work, how the different levels of certifications as far as associate and specialist level work. I mean, because I think that does play into creating different pathways for individuals. So tell us a little bit how the kind of the ladder and the structure of the certifications work.
So we have a couple different levels of certification. If we start out with the associate level certifications, these are fundamental certifications, really based on those fundamental skills, beginning with what is today's advanced manufacturing environment look like, and really an introduction to the idea of a connected enterprise and how the Industry 4.0 related technologies are being used to collect data, to analyze data, and at a fundamental way, or foundational way. And initially those certifications were developed with an eye towards the high school
Okay.
level program.
Sure.
But we're seeing those foundational level certifications being used in industry.
Wow.
In a number of different ways also, because for a lot of industries, their frontline workforce, it might have been with the company for a number of years, but they've never really been exposed to any kind of education or training around
Right.
these new technologies.
Right.
So we're seeing companies that are recognizing that it's important for their frontline workforce to get some additional training and really get to understand what's going on under the hood,
Right.
within their own facilities.
And I'm sure some of that too has to do with, the need for skilled labor, and how there aren't enough people with those sets of skills, so they're hiring people who maybe don't have skills,
Right.
and that associate at least gets them going.
Get them started.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then, we also have what we call specialist level certification, and these are occupational certifications that are made up of a series of individual micro-credentials.
Right.
The whole concept of developing this whole series of micro-credentials came out of our first technical work group meeting
Yeah.
back in 2017
Wow.
when we were, having our industry partners try to visualize what would work within their own
Yes.
companies.
Yes.
And overwhelmingly, the responses kept coming back. We need something that's very modular in
Yeah.
nature. And, if we could send our people for training for a week at a time, it would be, much easier for us to more quickly
Yes.
upgrade the skills of our existing workforce, because for so many folks that are working in the industry, it's even impossible for them to take a semester course, for example.
Yeah.
They're many times
Big investment.
they're already working 10 hours a day.
Right.
And they've got soccer and all kinds of other commitments. But
Yeah.
that sort of mindset was the impetus for us to develop the series of micro credentials. We
Okay.
tried to use roughly that 40-hour, 1 week of training.
Yep.
Window to determine the size of the content that's embedded in each of our micro credentials, and certainly that has resonated really well on the industry side.
Yeah.
Because for almost any company you talk to, that that's what they need.
Yeah.
is the short-term training that they can build on over time to create those pathways within their organizations. But it also works really well on the education side.
Right.
Because it's much easier to embed these micro-credentials in individual courses that
Sure.
already exist.
Sure.
And, certainly we know from example that if community and technical colleges have to develop new courses, that could be a 2 or 3 year
Yeah.
process in many
Yeah.
states to get it through their system. But with these micro credentials, they might have to update the content of some of their existing courses, but they can embed them in their existing course structure, which has allowed us to grow much quicker.
Yes.
And it's allowed colleges to really embrace these new technologies much quicker as well. So, we see a lot of advantages to this whole series of stackable micro-credentials.
Yeah.
And so we've developed a number of, we've had our industry folks guide us in developing a whole series of different occupational certifications that are
Okay.
made up of different mixes or stacks of specific micro-credentials. And we use that really as an example to show companies how these micro-credentials can be used a lot of different ways within their own organizations, depending on the needs of their workforce. And I also like to remind them that, companies have the ability to pick and choose, credential by credential, exactly what fits their needs. Because certainly we know from experience that companies don't want to spend money to train people and certify them on something they don't think they need, right away.
Eliminate as much waste as possible.
So it has that flexibility to tailor, have a system that's national, but also infinitely tailorable to the individual company's needs.
Yeah, I love that model. The way you guys have thought that through and then use the feedback from the employers and the educators to find the model that works. It's been successful. We've seen that. We've seen it with the exponential growth of SACA's membership across the country. One final question for you before we wrap up our conversation. What does SACA have on the radar for the next year or two?
Well, we're really happy that we've been selected by SESME, the National Smart Energy Institute.
Yes.
That's sponsored by the Department of Energy, to work with them to develop 4 or 5 micro credentials around smart energy use
Wow.
in manufacturing. So that work will be beginning in January and through 2023. We also are working to have secure digital credentials as part of our
Yes.
system, so that in addition to having the current credentials, they 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 will be the candidate will be able to right off the SACA portal have a digital credential that's
Yeah.
secure, that they can use, and we can embed a lot more information in those digital credentials that
Mhm.
really spell out what competencies
Sure.
are embedded in the credential, which will be very useful for employers when they see those, and they can click on them on a candidate's resume
Yeah.
to really get a better understanding of what the certification means.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it.
And then the kind of the third major project is developing additional micro credentials around the process and instrumentation control
Yes.
industries, and that's something we have some credentials on it now, but we are going to be working to expand that into the instrumentation and process control areas.
So process control and instrumentation, digital badging, and some exciting stuff coming up with SESME and the Clean Energy Institute on that side of things. Really exciting work being done at SACA. Jim, congratulations on all your success so far. If you want to get to know more about SACA, the website is saca.org. Jim, Executive Director of the Smart Automation Certification Alliance, is our guest on the Tech Ed Podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much, Melissa. It's been great to be with you.
Wonderful.